So...
Yeah.
After careful and protracted deliberation, I have come to the conclusion and the realization
now go present yourself to the
that Waka is voiced by John DiMaggio.
Yes, I told you.
In fact, I'm going to raise the game here. He also voices Kimari. Yes, that's his name.
Yeah. He does.
Headshot Cam.
Now, sound.
Okay, so as of this recording, I have beaten Final Fantasy X, or maybe it has beaten me. I am not able to tell anymore. I don't even know where to start.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, there's always the beginning. Because you started off liking the game at first for its subtlety and other details that made it different.
Yes, all of that. Really, in the second half of it, I've already started to realize that there were a lot of elements bogging it down, so to speak, because as a straightforward JRPG with a solid combat system, it's alright. I dare say it has one of the best efforts in regards of theming that this series has ever managed to do, and I'll get to that.
Yeah.
But for every exciting boss fight, for every fun little quirky moments between character, and for every strategic maneuvering in a given fight, there was a Blitzball, there was a Cloister of Trials, there was a cheap boss with a cheap gimmick, and there was this game's obstinance, absurd stubbornness in making sure I could never be able to finish it in the day I wanted it to finish it, which was yesterday. I thought to myself, okay, all that's left is fighting Sin, final dungeon, the boss. How long could it possibly take?
Yeah.
It takes the length of an entire new game. That's where my mind simply left my body and I could not be bothered to care about anything else. It was so brutal. The last few hours alone of this game, they were so brutal. I can't even process how arduous it was, and the reward wasn't exactly worth it either.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, I know this battle all too well. Well, I know these battles, I should say, all too well.
Yunalesca was an annoying boss. Also, three faces? 3 faces?
Yes.
She's not even the final boss. She gets 3 faces. And she keeps turning me into a zombie and casting healing spells on me to kill me faster. And if I dare not to play the way it wants me to, she casts Megadeth, which is not the band, unfortunately. It's a spell that could kill me instantly, which happened.
Yes.
So I had to redo the entire 3 phases from the start. Joy!
Extreme joy that fight is at Unalesca's. I say with complete sarcasm.
And then there is every single enemy inside Sin, which find new ridiculous cheap way to party wipe me, forcing me to go back to the last saving point, losing all the progress in the meantime. Oh, screw it. I am not grinding anymore, I'm just going to race to the finish line. Which was a bad idea, because, as it turns out, even though I spent 50 hours grinding levels, 50 damn hours, it still wasn't enough to face the quote-unquote final boss. Which was the most atrociously, unnecessarily difficult I've seen in this entire series. Not counting the optional bosses, of course.
Yeah, the Dark Aeons in this one.
I
I never bothered with the Dark Aeons except for Dark Veil 4, just to get Oren's final overdrive ability.
could not care about overdrives, I could not care about anything else. At that point, I just wanted to end the game, because I've been playing it for what it feels like a whole year, but it's barely been a week instead.
Yeah.
So essentially, the most frustrating thing about fighting that particular boss, which you all know what I'm talking about if you play this game, the most frustrating aspect was that the strategy I went in with it was not wrong, was the right one to go with. It just so happened that I did not grind enough levels. I was short of 10 levels, as it were.
Jeez.
Which is the worst. Period. Honestly, the anticlimax that follows that feels like a relief at this point, because my nerves could not take any more of this. And make no mistake, it was an anticlimax, sort of a waste of time from a gameplay standpoint. From a narrative and thematic standpoint, I do get what the point of the Yu Yevon fight is.
Well, yeah, I do get the theme as well, but in translation to video game, it doesn't feel right.
It seems that in a interactive medium such as gaming, that sort of theming does not translate well into gameplay because you're still stuck with a inconsequential final boss that's impossible to lose against. Literally impossible to lose against. They cast auto life on you in case you die.
Oh.
And once again, I do understand that.
I began to realize how different this
Thematically, despite of all the misgivings, of all the missteps in the narrative so far, thematically Final Fantasy X amounts to letting go of the past in order to embrace the future. In that sense, Sin, and therefore Yu Yevon, who controls Sin, are the embodiment of that destructive past that actually is holding down humanity as a whole, is destroying humanity's future. And in that sense, it's brilliant. Yu Yevon, being so small and insignificant, actually adds to what is essentially the truth about the past that we tend to hold on so dearly. It's ultimately not as scary or as powerful a tradition, a state of mind, as we thought it is. It's our slavery towards the past that gives it power, that gives it a literal kaiju body, in that sense.
Yeah.
So thematically, it's solid.
Only a chosen few become summoners, who call forth entities of great power, the Aeons. The Aeons hear our prayers and come down to us. They are the blessing of Yevon.
So what he meant was that we should respect some kind of great men or something like that, I figured.
But it's still such a chore to get through it. I don't want to even look at this game anymore. By the way, speaking of looking, how good looking are these few pre-rendered rooms?
I know, right? They look quite nice, don't they?
Yes. I've always liked that particular aesthetic of the 3D Final Fantasy games ever since the PlayStation era. Pre-rendered, digitally painted rooms and screens, such as this room. How nice.
There's always a lot of detail, and especially in the later ones like this one. Not so much in number 7, but...
Well, it was the first attempt at that particular aesthetic. They had a lot of corners to cut, considering it was their first 3D game.
Yeah, and not to mention they were partway through a Nintendo 64. So essentially they just had to make do with what they worked on and then just continue work on the PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's a bit of knowledge not many of you people know about the development of Final Fantasy VII, but we're not
watch
talking
out,
about that.
Dr. Devar is in the house.
But we're not here to talk about Final Fantasy VII, we're here to talk about Final Fantasy X in particular.
In particular, so we might have missed a few world-building points, if you will.
Basically, Terryton, I should say, is using Sin's toxins as an excuse to learn about the culture and the past that he has no idea about.
To my dismay, there isn't really much to learn about Spira or this culture. Especially since the whole point that the game wants you to go away with is that the religion, the entire foundations of the Spiran culture are completely fake. So there isn't much left for you to hold on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we are sleeping at Captain Wackadoodle's tent. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, let me go back real quickly to my original point about Waka being a bigoted racist without redeeming qualities that makes everyone else look bad by approximate presence.
Yeah.
The game doesn't even have the guts to go full-on racist with him, because they try to justify his bigotry towards the Halberd and the Machinas with a rather flimsy excuse. And again, having an excuse to be racist goes against the entire point of racism. Also, nice little flashback there.
Of Terryton's mom.
Do you hate him so? But if he dies, you'll never be able to tell him.
Yes, Terryton, if you will not see your father again, you cannot tell him how much you hate him. By the way, I've seen that particular reunion in the game.
Yes.
It was
Christmas dinner got awkward.
It's not exactly cathartic or emotionally compelling in any way whatsoever. It's mostly awkward, and I can thank the delivery of the English voice actors, really.
Yeah.
They had some odd quirks in the English delivery here. For example, when Yuna says yes, she doesn't just say yes. No, she says yes.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Keep in mind, Final Fantasy X was like the first time they've ever had voice acting, essentially.
I know, honestly, it could have been a lot worse. They had John DiMaggio as Waka.
Yeah. John DiMaggio playing a racist.
If it wasn't supposed to be a likable protagonist, I could have gotten behind that. But you know what? As bad as Waka is, Seymour is much worse. He is the most annoying, ridiculous, recurring villain in this entire series. I cannot stand him. He's so annoying. I would take Kefka any day of the week over Seymour. But the thing that I hate the most about Seymour isn't just his very existence or his stupid aesthetic presentation. It's the fact that he's named Seymour. I cannot take anyone seriously with the name Seymour. No parent would name their children Seymour after The Simpsons.
Seymour.
Superintendent, I was just killing the infidels.
The superintendent, I was only destroying all life so that suffering will never happen anymore. Care to join me?